G'day everybody. It's been a while, but I thought I might finally get around today and do a bit of a review on my Kinta Fitness seated leg extension leg curl combo. Now first I have to make the proviso that this is the legacy version of their leg extension leg curl combo. So they've upgraded to a different variant. They no longer sell this one, but I thought it was worth doing a video anyway, just to some general comments about the service of the team at Kinta Fitness, and then also some comments about this design in general, because there are a lot of people currently on the Home Gym Australia or Garage Gyms Australia Facebook group that are considering importing models not dissimilar to this, and they are not all built exactly the same, but there are some commonalities that you really need to consider when getting this kind of machine. In terms of the aesthetic, it looks really nice. I think it's this particular model from the factory is probably looking to imitate or be inspired by the Hammer Strength Select style of machines with that square sort of tubing look, which is very common, and even the type of pad on the seat you'll see is very familiar to those Hammer Strength style Select machines. It's definitely not a clone, because Hammer Strength themselves don't actually sell a seated leg curl leg extension combo like this. They do individual machines, so this is where it differs a little bit. Now it doesn't fold into a lying leg curl. There is a version like that that's starting to become popular as well. However, the mechanism is quite clever in how it achieves this. So first of all, let's zoom in and show you that it does come with a fairly hefty 131 kilo weight stack, all color coded. It does have, the nice sort of infographic on it. These are the micro plates, which are very handy to have. That's nice for your gaps, to make smaller increments if you want. One thing that I really look for, that I like about this model, is this particular leg pad, as opposed to the Alibaba copy of Sorenex's leg extension seated leg curl, and now I think Titan Fitness in America are doing one as well, where this pad is actually fully round. Not a fan of the fully round pads at all, especially if they pivot like that up here, because what can happen is when you get into a heavy leg curl, as you're curling your feet under your buttocks, you can actually pull yourself out of the seat, especially if that leg pad is round and has the ability to roll, so it doesn't hold you down so much, and it certainly doesn't stop you from being pulled forward, whereas this nice square pad sort of comes down. If you put yourself on the seat right, you have to look at your seat depth, which is adjustable there, but what you want to do is you want to have the back of your knee. This probably sounds obvious, but I've seen a lot of people get this wrong. You need to have the back of your knee curling sort of just at where the pad is, and then that sitting just behind the kneecap around here, not on your kneecap, but behind your kneecap. And that will not only hold you down, it'll stop you from getting pulled forward out of the machine. So if you are looking for a combo unit, consider something with the square pad, and then these two handles. What you should actually be doing, if you want to stop yourself again from getting pulled forward, is you can put your hands on here and sort of push against them and use them to brace and keep yourself in the chair. Another option is to maybe use your seatbelt. So that's only for the seated leg curl portion. You leave that totally up when you're doing leg extension. Leg extension handles are here. They're in a good place. I'll try to put some B-roll in of the two movements. And I'll show you the movements individually. So that's the first thing about the roller pad. On the leg extension, and this is where the modifications come in, you need to make sure when you have these hammer strength style ones that use the 2 bars rather than one big fat bar on some of the pieces, if you put the washers, you'll find sometimes you need to use extra washers, because this pad, especially over time in common commercial gyms with a lot of heavy usage, this is a little bit thinner than I would like to see in a commercial gym. After years of use and curling, this can actually bend a little bit and end up sort of bowed just slightly, so that you feel like one leg, the inside leg, is doing more work than the outside leg. Now that's not the case on this one for 2 reasons. One, this is an assistance movement for me, and this is my personal gym, so it's not exactly a high traffic gym, so I'm very unlikely to bend that over time just myself, using it, once or twice a week, more likely once a week because I'm a FIFO worker. I do actually do this movement twice a week, but one of those trips is on site at the site gym. So I do like this normally to be a bit thicker, but if it is just you in your home gym, it'll probably be fine for years and years. But the other thing is, if you put the washers on incorrectly, you can actually just have that bend in there because this isn't done correctly. So you can see what I've done here with mine is that there's an additional washer on this side, and this wasn't here. I had to add that, so that washer there, and then there's an additional washer here. And the reason for that is that it puts a little bit more tension on this end, and if anything is working in the opposite direction to what your legs will be doing, which is wanting to push this and tension it down in that direction. Whereas if you put the additional spacing up here, it'll actually kink that roller pad up just a little bit so that it actually stays true when you're doing the leg curl. So that's just a small tip. If you do go with the style of hammer strength style machines where there's 2 individual bars rather than one big fat tube. The big fat tubes don't have this problem. The bars work just fine as long as you put the washers on the right side to give it the more tension. Now, the reason I got it a little bit cheaper, or a lot bit cheaper actually, the boys give me a really good discount, and probably part of the reason why they moved away from this design, I'm guessing here. But in this particular design, there are a couple of issues. So in order for it, let me just lower the weight so I can demonstrate this without having to climb into the machine. So, this is in seated leg curl mode right now. And so as you can see, this is, now it is a 1-to-1 ratio because there's no pulley there. So it's a straight pull. So it's a 1-to-1 ratio. And that comes out the top, straight down to the bottom here, and then comes to here. Now, if this cable just went straight and mounted up here, then it would be a leg extension machine only. But having this interbar, which goes back on to the I don't know, plastic rotation piece, if you will, by having that there, that allows this to go in 2 directions. So when you're doing a leg curl and you're pushing down, watch what happens to the cable. The cable actually redirects around that top pulley and lets you pull down. Right, so this cable actually goes around the back of here and it mounts there. That's biting the cable, and the cable starts coming out there and moves around and underneath. Now, without that redirect, if this instead was here and the cable went straight back that way, that is how it would be if this was only a seated leg curl. And if it was a leg extension, the cable would instead insert up here. But putting the redirect in there allows the cable to come up this way and then redirect for leg curl. And then for leg extension, you pull this pin, let the foot leg drop all the way down there. And now what happens is as you pull up, watch what happens to the cable. That top pulley actually moves with the movement of the leg. It follows it. all the way up like that. So that's how you get the ability to do a leg curl, is that this is actually fixed on here. So when you do leg curl, it rolls that way, and when you do leg extension, it comes up. This actually moves and comes up with it. Now, in order to do that, you need this bar. Now, this is why I think I got the discount. As you can see, this bar kind of looks a little bit twisted. It's not completely straight, which is probably something that might have happened in transit, hence the, or even if it's just the design. I didn't ask why, but the team have moved away from this design, but that wasn't so big of a deal. The only things that I had to do to fix this design were two things. So this, originally, and I'll try to put a picture of it up here, but this is not the original pad. It had a much smaller, much thinner, much cushier version of this pad. This is what the bar sits on when you're doing leg curls, which is what stops it going any further close to here. Now, the original one of this is a copy of the pad which you see on hammer strength machines, but it would literally get squashed under this bar because it was just rubber. Whereas this is actually an ATX brace pad, which I put on there instead off of my original ATX jammer arms, which you can see there's another one of them there. Now, these rubber pads are actually fully steel underneath, and the rubber is just a coating. So by swapping it to this pad, there's no give, and it works perfectly, as opposed to the original pad, which sort of squashed down every rep and really took a lot of tension away from the movement. So that was one thing where, again, it was a match made in heaven. I had the part I already needed, just lying around. This is why I don't throw out gym equipment, because you can repurpose things. The other problem is that because of the twist that's in here, which if it wasn't twisted, it might not have been an issue, but you can probably see, if I come around the back here, charge was from the original nut here. This one on this side, this would actually hit and drag on this when completing the rep, and you could feel it. It was like a grinding throughout the rep because the nut was sitting too high relative to this bar. Again, I think because the bar is twisted slightly, you can see it's on an angle there at the top where it comes in. So in order to fix that, I don't have the tools because that's very thick steel. So I honestly think this was fabricated incorrectly rather than bent, because that is very thick. It will take a phenomenal amount of force to actually twist that. So I think it was probably welded on incorrectly. But it was an easy fix because these flush heads actually sit, I'll try to get an angle for you, they sit a lot lower, you can see there, than that does. So this original one here was hitting that, but these ones, they don't hit it at all. So this can swing through, and these screws do not hit that whatsoever. So again, I'll put some B-roll up there, but now, for the cost of, I say cost in a relative term, because I had that, I don't know where the hell you would buy that if you didn't already have one, but I did, so I was lucky. That's why it was a match sort of made in heaven, and I would have been silly not to buy it. But for the cost of $2-3 sort of flush, I don't know what I think they're called, cap screws maybe, or butt screws, but because they are an oversleeve rather than a nut, they sit flush. It eliminated the dragging. The extra hole gave me the ROM I needed, and then simply knowing what washers to put on this side got me the angle I want. So in terms of how does this perform after those two little tweaks, it's absolutely fantastic. For my purposes, for once a week as an accessory exercise, or even twice a week if I wasn't FIFO, absolutely perfect for me. I'm really, really ecstatic that I got what was effectively a brand spanking new machine that had only ever sat in the showroom, and I spent, in addition to what I bought it for, which again was a hefty discount, I'll admit, so I'm very, very lucky, $6 for those two pieces, drill one hole, and because I was fortunate enough again to have that spare, you know, commercial quality, beautiful system that does seated hamstring curl and seated leg extension. All up in terms of the service, I must say, for Kinta Fitness, even though they don't sell this unit anymore, one, they recognised they had a product which wasn't perfect out of the box. Hence, they discontinued that product, and they've got a new version now, which is even better, and I believe ready to go. So good on them for recognising they were having an issue with their design. For whatever those issues were, they've made the change. And then, secondly, absolutely stoked with their upfront honesty with regards to the limitations around this machine. They were very forthright about what was not perfect about it, and made me aware of the limitations at the time I bought it. There was no shady discussions or any attempt to rip me off. The guys did a really, really good job of open communication and delivered it for me. So absolutely happy with the service at Kinta Fitness. To the boys there, if you are in the Perth area, or even if you're not in the Perth area, give them a call. I believe their shipping's pretty good as well. Thanks guys, that's my review of my Kinta Fitness seated leg curl leg extension machine.